This is the trap they call retirement. Alan Watts. Imagine this: you've spent your entire life climbing a ladder, year after year, rung after rung. School, job, promotion, house, mortgage, maybe a few vacations sprinkled in, like breadcrumbs dropped just far enough apart to keep you moving forward. And at the top of that ladder, after 40, maybe 50 years of walking in rhythm with the machine, you're promised something called retirement, a golden age, a reward. Finally, you get to live. But what if I told you that this whole structure, the grind, the waiting, the sacrifice, is not just flawed, but fundamentally backward? What if the entire idea of retirement, as we're sold it, is the greatest philosophical trap of our time? Alan Watts once asked, what if money was no object? And that question, seemingly simple, has the power to unravel the whole illusion. Because when you remove money and the timelines built around it from the equation, what remains is the present. And the present is the one thing retirement always asks you to delay. We're told to postpone joy for security, to mortgage our youth, hoping to rent freedom later. But by the time we get there, many of us don't even remember how to be free. We've spent so long being useful, productive, efficient that we've forgotten how to be alive.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Let's be honest with each other. How many people do you know who finally retired and didn't know what to do with themselves? They had decades of plans, dreams, and promises, but when the structure fell away, so did their sense of identity. They were so used to being defined by their role in the system, a job title, a salary, a routine, that when that disappeared, it was like staring into a void. And that's because retirement, as it's sold to us, is not about liberation. It's about containment. It's the final step in a life lived entirely in service of the future, always later, never now. But here's the deeper trap. We are raised to believe that life is a linear journey, a straight line from beginning to end, with clear milestones along the way. Childhood, school, career, retirement, death. And every phase is just training for the next. But Alan Watts challenges that directly. He says life is not a journey, it's a dance. The point of a dance is not to get to the end. It's to move, to feel, to flow. The music is playing now, not later. And if we're always waiting for the final note, we miss the entire rhythm. So why do we buy into the trap? It's because we've mistaken stability for meaning and deferred gratification for virtue. We've been taught that a good life is one that's well-planned, well-saved, and well-behaved. But no child dreams of being well-behaved. Children dream of wonder, exploration, creating, connecting, being. Somewhere along the way, we trade that for a promise of someday. But someday is a ghost. It never arrives, and when it does, it's usually not what we imagined. Now ask yourself this: what would your life look like if you stopped living for retirement and started living in alignment with your soul? Not recklessly, not irresponsibly, but truthfully. What if you measured your wealth not in years saved, but in days fully lived? What if fulfillment wasn't locked behind a finish line, but scattered across the path waiting to be picked up, if only you paused long enough to see it? This isn't just philosophical musing. It's practical. Because the trap of retirement doesn't just steal your future, it distorts your present. It tells you that your real life hasn't started yet, and that you're still in rehearsal, that joy must be earned. But joy is not earned, it's allowed. And the people who actually make it, not just financially, but spiritually are the ones who stop waiting for permission. They live now, they create now, and they rest and work and play now, not because they're reckless, but because they understand that the only moment they're guaranteed is this one. So let me ask you, are you waiting to live? Are you trading your hours for a hypothetical peace that may never come? Are you deferring your wildness, your curiosity, your joy because you think you'll have time for it later? What if later doesn't come? What if the greatest risk isn't living freely now but waking up one day and realizing you never lived at all? You see, the man who questions retirement isn't irresponsible. He's awake. He knows that life is not a savings account, it's a song. And every day you silence your music, in the name of someday, you lose something you can never get back. The illusion of arrival, why the finish line is a mirage that keeps you running. Let's get one thing straight. The idea of arrival, that moment when everything clicks, when life finally begins, when you can breathe, relax and enjoy what you've built, is a myth. A compelling one, yes, but still a myth. We're raised to believe that life is a kind of race, and that if we run fast enough, work hard enough, delay gratification long enough, we'll eventually reach the finish line. That's what retirement is sold as, the finish line, the reward at the end of the track. But here's where philosophy slices through the illusion. Alan Watts reminds us that we were never meant to live life as a means to an end. And the more we chase the end, the more we miss the middle, which was the point all along. We live in a culture obsessed with destinations. From school to career to retirement, from fitness goals to financial milestones, we are taught to fix our eyes on the prize. We are told not to waste time, to stay focused, to grind, to build. And there's value in discipline, yes, but only if you remember why you're doing it. The tragedy is that most people forget. They forget that the goal was never the house, the savings, the vacation home. The goal was freedom. The goal was peace. And the goal was joy. But somewhere along the way, the pursuit of the goal becomes a lifestyle in itself, a lifestyle of constant striving. And when that becomes your identity, arrival becomes impossible. Because what does arrival even mean in a system that constantly moves the goalposts? You hit your income target, but now you need to invest. You reach a promotion, but now there's a higher title. You finally retire, but now you're told to stay active, to find a second act, but to keep optimizing your legacy. It never ends. The carrot is always one step ahead, and the finish line keeps disappearing into the horizon. You can never arrive in a system designed to keep you moving. And that's the trap. Alan Watts had a way of piercing through all this with a single sentence. He said, "We thought of life by analogy with a journey, with a serious purpose at the end. But we missed the point the whole way along. It was a musical thing, and you were supposed to sing or to dance while the music was being played. What a radical shift in perspective. What if you weren't supposed to get somewhere? What if you were supposed to be here?" You see, the illusion of arrival is not just a psychological burden, it's a spiritual fracture. It splits you from the present moment. It tells you that this breath, this hour, this stage of your life is not quite it. Not yet. You need a few more things, a few more years, a few more accomplishments, and then, finally, you'll be allowed to rest. But let me ask you something. How many times have you reached a goal only to feel the emptiness of it? But how many times have you told yourself, if I just get through this week, this quarter, this year, only to find that the next one is just as full, just as demanding, just as distant from peace. That's not a failure of your effort. It's a failure of the framework, because the framework is flawed. It tells you that fulfillment lies in the future, and that the present is just a corridor to get there. But the present is all you ever have. And if you don't learn to inhabit it now, you won't magically know how to do it later. Your retirement won't teach you how to live, it will only magnify the patterns you've practiced for decades. If you've practiced stress, you'll retire into stress. If you've practiced joy, you'll retire into joy. So here's the question that cuts to the heart of all of this. What are you rehearsing for? Are you rehearsing for a life you'll never actually perform? Are you postponing your aliveness because you believe it will come later, like a package in the mail? What if that package doesn't exist? What if this is the show? Right now, right here, no dress rehearsal, no second act. The man who breaks free from this illusion doesn't do it because he's lazy or irresponsible. He does it because he sees that the finish line isn't real. He stops running not because he's given up, but because he's woken up. And in doing so, he begins to walk, to dance, to live. The great disconnection, how the promise of retirement separates you from yourself. Perhaps the most insidious aspect of the retirement myth isn't just that it delays your life, it's that it quietly disconnects you from your own being. It teaches you to see yourself not as a living, breathing soul in the present moment, but as a project under construction, a prototype, a rough draft of someone better, more successful, more complete later. And while you're waiting to become that person, you learn to suppress who you are now. Your passions, your instincts, your creativity, your stillness, all of it is considered a distraction from the main task, building the future. But what if that future never comes? Or worse, what if it does, and you no longer recognize the person you've become when you get there? Alan Watts often spoke of the tragedy of living a life of self-denial in the name of some abstract future. He warned that we mistake the menu for the meal, the map for the territory. We get so wrapped up in plans, projections, and 5-year goals that we forget how to listen to the quiet urges of the soul. We stop asking, what do I feel? What do I want? What do I love? Instead, we ask, what's smart? What's strategic? What will pay off later? And in that shift, something essential is lost. We become strangers to our own depth. The promise of retirement is that if you just stay the course, if you keep performing, producing, enduring, then one day you'll get to return to yourself. You'll read the books, write the poems, travel the world, start the garden, finally breathe. But by then, the self you were meant to return to may be long gone. It's like locking a part of your soul in a room and promising to come back for it in 40 years. But what if that room gets dusty? What if the door rusts shut? What if the part of you that once wanted to write, to paint, to explore, to be wild and alive gets tired of waiting? This disconnection is not accidental. It's baked into the system. The modern world doesn't benefit from you being fully alive and deeply present. It benefits from you being just restless enough to keep buying, just insecure enough to keep performing, just tired enough to keep obeying. A person who is fully connected to themselves is unpredictable, but they can't be easily sold to, manipulated, or controlled. That's why the mythology of retirement is so effective. It gives you just enough hope to keep you compliant, while postponing your awakening indefinitely. But life doesn't wait. The seasons turn, but the body changes. The chances pass. And one day you look up from your desk or your timeline or your spreadsheet, and you realize that the person you were meant to be has been calling to you for years, and you kept sending them to voicemail because you were busy, because you had bills, because you were being responsible. But at what cost? Let me ask you something painfully honest. When was the last time you felt like you were living your life, not just managing it? When was the last time you were still enough to hear your own intuition? When did you last create something just for the joy of it, not for profit or productivity? These aren't luxuries. These are the roots of your being. And if you ignore them too long, you risk becoming a ghost in your own life, present in body, but absent in spirit. The promise of retirement is seductive because it tells you what you want to hear, that your soul will be rewarded eventually. But your soul doesn't live in eventually. It lives in now. And every day you delay your authenticity is a day that part of you goes unfed, unheard, unlived. So what does it mean to reconnect? It means making space for silence. It means asking deeper questions. It means becoming suspicious of any system that tells you your joy must be delayed. It means taking small, radical steps toward the life you actually want, not later, but now. It might mean working less, earning less, owning less, but feeling more, being more, laughing more, living more. The man who questions retirement isn't rejecting hard work, he's rejecting the idea that life is only valuable once it's been earned. He's reclaiming his right to be whole now, not when the bank account is full, not when the market says it's safe, not when permission is granted. Now. The final rebellion, living now in a world that profits from your waiting. To live now fully, honestly, and without apology is nothing short of rebellion. Not a loud, angry rebellion filled with slogans and barricades, but a quiet, inner revolution. The kind that starts in your breath and spreads through your choices. The kind that breaks no laws but defies every expectation. Because in a world that profits from your distraction, your dissatisfaction, and most of all your waiting, there is nothing more radical than choosing to be content in the present moment. Nothing more threatening to the machinery of consumption than a soul that no longer needs to be somewhere else. You see, the system doesn't just want your time, it wants your longing. It thrives on selling you the idea that what you need is always just out of reach. A better body, a better job, a better life in some distant, polished version of the future. Retirement is simply the final product in that long line of some days. It's marketed as the moment when everything will finally make sense. But what if it never does? What if the promise of peace, joy, and fulfillment is not waiting for you at the end, but has always been available, hidden in the overlooked now? Alan Watts understood this deeply. He spoke of the absurdity of postponing life, calling it a kind of madness. He said, "We are living in a culture entirely hypnotized by the illusion of time, in which the so-called present moment is felt as nothing but an infinitesimal hairline between an all-powerfully causative past and an absorbingly important future. And so we miss it. We miss life not because it's hard to find, but because we're always looking just past it. To live now is to take your eyes off the horizon and notice what's around you. It means letting go of the belief that joy is something you earn after enough suffering. It means realizing that peace is not a retirement plan, it's a practice. And it's not always dramatic. Sometimes it looks like saying no to something that drains you, even if it pays well. Sometimes it looks like taking a walk in the middle of the day, or spending time with someone you love without checking your phone. Sometimes it looks like doing less, not more. Not because you're lazy, but because you're finally awake. This is the final rebellion, refusing to be owned by a future that may never come, and choosing instead to belong fully to the day you're in. It's not about abandoning responsibility or ignoring reality. It's about choosing a different kind of responsibility, the responsibility to your soul. The responsibility to love your life while you're in it, not just in retrospect. Because no amount of money, planning, or accolades will give you back the moments you didn't live. And yes, this path is harder than it sounds, because everything around you, from advertisements to institutions to well-meaning friends, will tell you to wait. Wait for the right time. Wait for security. Wait until you've earned it. But here's what they don't tell you: there is no right time. There is only now and what you choose to do with it. So ask yourself one last time, what are you waiting for? What dream, what version of yourself, what life are you postponing until some invisible finish line is crossed? And what if the finish line was never real? What if you've already arrived and the only thing left to do is start living like it? You don't have to quit your job tomorrow. You don't have to move to the mountains or renounce society. All you have to do is stop outsourcing your soul to a future that doesn't exist. Start small. Start honest. Start now. Because the man who lives now, who truly lives, is beyond the reach of the system. He's not waiting to be free. He is free. And that is the ultimate victory.